All right, we got Gregory who's holding for a second, DC. But before we bring Gregory in, I wanted to ask you about this QB grade. We were having some conversation around the QB grade for Alabama football, the entire room, okay? James Fletcher had an A-, but he graded it with a curve of Tua getting 75% of the grade, everybody else getting a 25%. James had a solid B, okay? Solid B. I had a 79.5, so I rounded it up to a B. And so what do you, when you look at it, when we're talking about depth, intangibles, experience, and talent, what do you think about this quarterback room at Alabama right now?
Well, I think I'd give it a B-, maybe C+, but just because I think the depth and experience pulls that overall number down. If you have to just be honest, I think there's C+, B- with room right now. And just where we're grading right now, just coming out of spring ball.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you hold on to that grade. We're going to get Gregory, and then we'll dig a little deeper into that. And when we come back with that overall grade, I'm going to ask you what's the ramifications of that. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Tua and how Tua played in the big games, and what that means for Alabama if that doesn't change and how they can overcome that. All right, Gregory, you're in with DC. What's your question?
Hey, DC, and hey, Martin, I agree with James. I give him a B because Matt Jones, he checked down right. He been there a while. Now, we talking about the 8-day game, right?
Yeah, we're just giving him you know, Gregory, Saban told us that the grade, that the spring game was like the grade before the season start. So we're not saying this is how good this quarterback room will be. We're saying right now, what would you give this room? If this group doesn't improve, what would you give them as a grade?
I give him a B. I give him a B because, how, he took his time and he was doing his check down. And then he had a little flash about himself, like, he had some confidence. Matt Jones, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And somebody got it right with James, because James must really paid attention. Matt Jones looked like he enveloped, he got mature, and it looked like he got some confidence.
Well, now, see, James was basing that off of the A-Day. I know what he did the week before against the starters, where he had 4 interceptions.
Okay, 4 interceptions. Okay, now, we were talking about the A-Day game. I know that.
No. I said up to the A-Day game. Up to the A-Day game. I took into consideration not just that one game. I'm talking about when you take what they did all spring, and the A-Day was the quiz that was based on the pre-work they had done. So I gave him a 79.5.
Okay.
He got a B out of mine too.
Yeah, I gotta give him a B because
right. Let me let DC respond.
Okay, come on.
Go ahead, DC.
We're talking about 4 quarterbacks,
right?
And so you got to give them a grade based on all 4 quarterbacks. That's where my B- C+ comes from. I think the other 2 are. The other 2 have talent going for them, but they don't have experience. They don't have. They've never been in a game situation. They're true freshmen. So if it gets that far, we have to rely on them. Then we're going to be talking about way down the list. So I'm thinking overall 4 quarterbacks. Talking about C+, B-.
Oh, okay. Hey, Martin.
Yes, sir.
I got one more question for you.
Go ahead.
If Jalen act like Tiger Woods this season, we're going to be in trouble, ain't we?
If Jalen comes back the way Tiger Woods did, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Win the Heisman Trophy. Win the national championship.
Hey, listen.
True or false? I want to know that. True or false? I want to you and James bring that up. True or false? I'm going to call him back then.
Okay, you gonna wait till we bring up Jalen? Okay, thank you.
True or false?
All right, thank you.
Well, y'all said. All right, roll tide.
All right, Greg. See, we're trying to talk about this Alabama team, and Gregory has brought in Jalen Hurts on the conversation. But yeah, Jalen. Someone told me I need to stop talking DC about Jalen Hurts, and I told him, I said, guys, like it, love it, or hate it, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, University of Alabama, and now the University of Oklahoma are entangled in this story together. We're going to, and the farther we go into this season, if Jalen Hurts performs and Tua performs, that conversation is only going to ramp up. Would you agree with that? Go ahead.
It's the nature of we're not creating a narrative. It's already been created for us.
That's right.
Seeing that play out.
Yeah, and I think, I would love to see the two of them battle it out for the national championship. I mean, because that would be the fun. That would be. Now you talk about writing a story that you could not imagine writing and trying to write it out. If that were to happen, it'd be a pretty amazing thing. And it's not so far-fetched that it's an impossibility. But let's get back to this Alabama quarterback room, DC. When you look at this team, let's go through the different things we use to come up with that grade. You give them maybe a C plus, maybe a B minus. When you look at depth of this room, what's your grade?
Well, I think looking at depth, you got to say a C, overall C. If Tua goes down, there's really no one behind him that's played a full game.
Yeah,
we haven't got a full game player behind him. I hate to bring up Jalen Hurts, but last year we always knew if Tua went down, we had a guy who won 26 games that could come in and play. We don't have that this year. So depth has got to be low. C, D plus at best. I would C at best. So I just don't think the depth is there.
All right, and because you take Tua, when you talk about depth, you take Tua out. Okay, when you talk about it, because you're talking about him, he's not considered when you factor in the depth. When you take into intangibles, you have to take Tua into that conversation. So what do you give him when it comes to intangibles? Things like, I count confidence, I count leadership, I count ability to influence the team, to kind of take control of a situation, work ethic, et cetera. What do you think? What do you give these guys when it comes to the intangibles?
I think intangibles not as high. I give him an A when it comes to intangibles, just because of Tua. He has the intangibles there of leadership and just a stick-to-itiveness. I think he wants to win. I think Mac Jones has been there for 2 years and has developed some intangibles on how to read, how to have confidence. And I think the young guys come in with just that intangibles of being, hey, great players at the high school level and coming in as 4 stars, possibly 5 stars, and have that Bear Bryant connection with Paul Tyson. You got the Tua connection with Talia. Those are intangibles that you just can't get in any other room. So I give them A when it comes to intangibles. Yeah,
it's interesting when you look at the intangible side. I probably did give them a little lower than I probably should have, because you just hit, being the grandson of Bryant, you know how much pressure that kid's played with his whole life, and now you got Talia being the younger brother of Tua and what he's had to deal with, and then making a move 4,000 miles across the country, on not just moving to the continental United States, but moving all the way across and stepping in and playing at an extremely high level. So intangibles I would give you is really high. Then when it comes to the talent standpoint, what would you give this group?
I think they're a talented group. I mean, we haven't seen that transition to the field yet, but we know with Tua, he's the most talented quarterback Alabama's ever had. Possibly going to be a first-round draft pick. Never had one of those Alabama, so talent abounds with him. And the freshman has to be talented to even be in the conversation at this stage.
Right.
And Mac Jones, he's proven when he's got an opportunity to play that he knows the quarterback position and can play it. So I think I'd give him a B plus on talent. B plus only because the 2 young ones haven't had a chance to display that talent yet.
Yeah, it's interesting. Mac Jones could probably start at least half of the SEC schools as of last year, potentially, and definitely this year if he was at most of the SEC schools. And had he gone to where he was originally going to go, committed to Kentucky, he might very well be the starter at Kentucky. It's kind of interesting how you judge a young man based on what he's competing against, but he has an uphill battle here at Alabama just because of the talent level. And then the last one is experience. When you grade this team and this group in terms of experience, that's probably going to be the lowest grade we give them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just to go back and touch on Mac Jones, on the talent level, you got to remember, guys, we've upped the talent level with Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa. If you look at all the other Alabama quarterbacks that's even won national championships, Mac Jones might be on par with some of them. So just to be honest,
yeah,
he has talent.
I would say Mac Jones is as talented as Coker or Blake Sims or Greg McElroy. I mean, he's in that same category. That's an interesting way to look at it. And from an experience standpoint, what would you give him?
Well, I think you got to give him a C here in experience, just because there is no one that's in the room other than Tua that's played a full game. And I just think that that's difficult. You can practice and practice and practice and practice, but there's nothing like the speed of a game in the SEC, and I think that catches up with you if you're not careful. You don't have the experience when you get to there. So I think overall C for experience.
When we come back, DC, I want to get you, and I'm going to get you guys to join in on this as well. When we come back, what I want to do is now, because we kind of gave some A's and some B pluses. Of those four, which one becomes the most important in terms of if Tua goes down, it's obvious which one is most important. But when you're ranking these, which one is most important in terms of that quarterback room, and what's the impact if Tua goes down? And we'll have that conversation coming back right here on the Blitz. Welcome back in. Let's continue our conversation about this quarterback room. Of those four things, depth, intangible, experience, and talent, what would you say is most critical to a successful quarterback room?
Well, I mean, I think in this situation, whether Tua stays on the field or not, talent's got to be the most important. If he's on the field, he's the most talented. It's going to be the most important out of football. If he's off the field, I think the talent level drops, and so it's going to be important out of football. So I think talent has to be the number one. And after that, I think you're looking at experience, and experience is what breeds your depth, and then your intangibles come at the end of that. But I think talent's got to be the most important.
Yeah, and I would agree with you when it comes to on the field as talent. If Tua's out there, because he's proven that he can get the job done. I think if he goes away, experience to me immediately becomes the big question, and the only way to get it is to get it. You know, I mean, and so if Alabama were to lose a Tua Tagovailoa game one, what does the expectation of this team immediately go to? First of all, I guess the question is, with Tua Tagovailoa, do you feel like this team is a national championship contending team?
I think so. I think if Tua stays healthy, I think we could win the national championship with this team. I really believe it might be a better team than last year's team.
Okay. Now, when you look at if Tua goes down, what becomes a realistic expectation if he goes down, say, game one or two early in the season?
If he goes down early in the season and Mac Jones or one of the other quarterbacks comes on and learns on the job, so to speak, I think we have I've always said that Mac Jones is as talented as some of the quarterbacks who've won a national championship at Alabama. The question will be, have they have enough talent to put around him to do that? And I think because of our playmakers, he does. And I think we're going to have a really good defense this year. So I think we have a chance to compete, win the SEC championship, and compete for a national championship.
And you kind of hit to where I want to go from that. But let me get these guys real quick on what's your guys' expectation in terms of this team and realistic. If Tua goes down those first couple games, we briefly hit on it, but we didn't go into any detail.
Yeah, I think when you look at just overall expectations, subtracting Tua Tagovailoa in the picture, which, I mean, last year, Alabama did have to bring Jalen Hurts in the SEC championship game, so it's not a far-fetched hypothetical from that standpoint. But as far as with this team, you immediately, without Tua, go from a national championship contender down to maybe, as you mentioned, DC, competing for an SEC championship, but with some of those road games in particular at Texas A&M and at Auburn as well, and at home against LSU as well, you're probably looking at about a 2 to 3 loss team without Tua Tagovailoa in that picture if you had to go to a backup for any meaningful extended action.
James Fletcher.
I think they finish second in the West if they lose to in like the first or second game, because I think these other teams, the A&Ms, the Auburns, the LSUs, they're always sitting there waiting for Alabama to slip up just once for their opportunity to jump up into that spot, and it gives them just so much more to play for if Tua does go down, and it gives them a lot more motivation to come in and try to beat Mac Jones and this team and get their chance to get into the playoffs and win the SEC West. All
right. Now, DC, you're going to be talking about this and have a lot more detail. If this were to happen, Tua go down, where does Alabama need to improve the most to compensate for a loss of a Tua Tagovailoa?
I think Alabama's running game's got to be much better than it was last year. I think it starts with the run and this offensive set. I think if we've got a quarterback, if we're relying on the run to set up the pass, then we're going to be less likely to have the drop off so severe if Tua were to go down. But if we're relying on Tua to make the plays and using his talent and his athletic ability to make every play, to read and make every play, then I think the drop off is much more severe. So I think our run game has got to improve. We got to set up the pass by play action passes, which I think Mac Jones is very good at that. And I think if our run game or offensive line improves, well, we could win a lot of games with a second string quarterback. And if Tua plays and I think he can work well within an offense, even with the run game being better, I think he'll be able to show off his skill set.
And let's go. Another question I'd asked earlier, DC, was regarding Tua and Tua's play against the likes of Mississippi State, Georgia, and Clemson. If you take those three teams, Fletch gave him a B plus, I think, in his performance there. We played Georgia twice. I think we've led for a combined total of 90 seconds. Can this Alabama team even win the SEC with Tua if there's not a drastic improvement in Tua Tagovailoa's play against those caliber of teams? I'm talking about just the SEC first, because Georgia's not going away. I don't know if they'll be as good defensively, but I think offensively they could be just as good or better. And if they are, is it just Tua that has improved, or can this team improve somewhere else to get past a Georgia in 2019?
I really believe, I hate to be a dead horse here, but I really believe it's got to be our running game or offensive line to improve to compete against those teams. If you look at those games, we were asking Tua or asking whoever the quarterback was to win based on his talent and throwing the ball. I think when you do that, and it kind of makes you a little one-dimensional. I hate to say that, but it makes a little one-dimensional. We were expecting Tua to win the ball with his arm with our great playmakers on the outside, and they covered us, and he had a hard time making those throws, making those reads, and confusing the pass coverages. If our running game was up to par, if we ran the ball to set up the pass, they wouldn't be able to have the option or the luxury to play the pass the way they did to shut that down. Alabama used to could impose their will on another team. That means we're going to run the ball. I remember a time where we lined up in a Wildcat with Mark Ingram in a Wildcat. And we told South Carolina, hey, we're going to run. We know we're going to run the ball. We know we're going to run the ball, and we're still going to run down your throats.
Yeah.
And he gained 246 yards. That was the kind of attitude of Alabama factor that, hey, we can beat you with our run game. We can throw the ball on you too, but we can beat you with our run game. Until you stop it, we're going to keep running it.
Yeah.
And Alabama didn't have that last year. We've got to get back to a better run game and a better offensive line production.
Yeah, that was Mark's Heisman moment. And then, of course, we did the same thing against Georgia in the SEC championship game when they came back and we had to close out the game. And that was a missing factor in this year's team. And I just wonder, has this Tide team moved so far the other way that they don't have those? We got some size now. The question is, can they have the toughness and the commitment to be a grinded out, put your head in there, stick your head in there type of team that can finish a game off with the run? And that's yet to be seen in this new age of Alabama football. I think that's one of the major things Nick Saban was talking about, getting back to the Alabama factory. What's your thoughts on that? Technology is a beautiful thing when it works. I don't even remember where we were at when we were talking about this Alabama team and Tua Tagovailoa and what they would need to do to get better.
I think we were talking about the running game and how the running game had to improve, and how in the past we were able to do that against Georgia and Notre Dame and South Carolina and some other teams, impose our will on them. And we got to get back to that, I believe, in order for us to help this team improve.
Yeah, and so I want to get to. Let's go ahead and get to the draft. But before we get to the draft, I got one question because I'm going to bring this up. I think either Thursday or Friday. Who is out? We've lost to Clemson in the championship, but who's Alabama's toughest or biggest roadblock? Is it Georgia or is it Clemson? And you can think about that and answer that when we get ready to go off there. I'll let you think on that one for a second. I've had a little time to think about it, but let's go to the NFL draft, DC. You're going to be talking about that in a lot more detail. What are you hearing as far as the Alabama guys when it comes to the draft and possible first day guys?
I think it's an exciting time for Alabama football. I guess this is a first year I can remember where an Alabama player has been even in the conversation for the number one pick in the draft. There's several mock drafts that has Quinion Williams going number one for teams that pass on Kyler Murray or teams that want to trade and trade up to get Quinion Williams. So, I think that's an exciting time in Alabama football where you have a player. And Mark, we're talking about a player that just a year ago didn't even know what he was going to be like. He was having to gain some weight to play the position, and just came off and did a great job. So I look for Quinion Williams to be first Alabama player off the board. He can go anywhere between 1 to 6, top 6 picks in the nation. I know Tampa Bay really likes him, so I don't know if they trade up and try to get him. I think Jonah Williams is probably going to be the second Alabama player off the board. And I know that he's liked by a lot of NFL squads. I think Miami Dolphins really like him. And I know that I believe Josh Jacobs is going to be the third Alabama player off the board in the first round. And I think those three are pretty locks to go in the first round. After that, of course, you got Mack Wilson. He might be able to sneak up there, but most people have him projected as second, third round. Damian Harris, second or third round. Deontay Thompson, second or third round. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see if Isaiah Buggs or Christian Miller get picked up in the later round. So I think we have a good, solid draft, top to bottom, problem players.
Yeah, and I know this sounds crazy. I'm not sold on Jonah Williams being dominant in the NFL. I think he's going to have to move positions. What I saw from Jonah Williams was he struggled against elite pass rushers, and that's what the NFL is based off of. So if he stays at that tackle position, I think it could be, a struggle for him. He's a technician when it comes to his footwork and his hand and all hand placement and all of that. But if you don't have the ability to get back and get set, it really doesn't matter. Which guy do you think, as far as those guys, and I know we're just projecting, has the most impactful career?
I think it's also between Quinn and Josh Jacobs. It's hard to running back to have longevity, but I think he has been so easily used at Alabama and has so much tread left on his tires that he might have an extended career in the NFL for what he does. But Quinion Williams has the ability to go in and make an immediate impact, and be a Pro Bowl player and play for a long time anchoring that middle. I think probably Quinion Williams.
Yeah, I like Quinion Williams, and I think the guy is benefiting from the Aaron Donald impact of the NFL. Now you have these guys who are athletes and playing in the middle, where it's not just big hog mollies that take up space. And I think these NFL centers are having a hard time adjusting to that caliber of play. So I look for Quentin Williams to go in and have an absolute dominant career as well. And we'll find out soon enough in only a few days, as several Alabama guys expected to go on day one. That'll be exciting for the program. Back to my question to you, DC, since we'll probably have that conversation later on this week. Who's the biggest roadblock when you look at it? You think Dabo Swinney, you think Kirby Smart, Georgia, Clemson. Which one you think is the biggest roadblock for Alabama moving forward?
Well, it's easy to say Clemson because they beat us, 2 times. But I think Georgia is probably the biggest roadblock because in the SEC we have to play them if they to win the championship, to get the SEC championship every year if they continue to be good. Clemson may or may not make it to the final game if they could lose in the semifinal game. So I'm gonna go with Georgia as being the biggest roadblock to Alabama.
And I'm gonna have to hold my opinion since I'm going to talk about it later. But I like that analysis of it. DC, tell our listeners what you got coming up and where they can find you.
Well, this week we're going on the podcast. We're going to take a look at the draft and Alabama players that may be selected. Go a little more in-depth analysis of them. We're going to take a look at what Alabama needs to do in the offseason to improve, to come back and start the fall with playing winning football. So you can find us at dccapstonereport.com. You can follow us on the Facebook at DC Capstone Report page, or you can follow me on Twitter at David Cott, that's CAVIDCOT 50.
All right, at David Cott 50. We'll catch up with you next week, and hopefully we'll get a little update on Saban by that time as well. Thanks, DC. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you, and roll tide, Martin.
Roll tide.